Welcome back, travel fans. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides. On this Sunday Sofa Time, I'm going to tell you about getting magically, surprisingly rebooked onto a British Airways A380 on the upper deck. It is true, this is not clickbait, this really happened, but one thing I just want to tell you in advance is the upper deck of an A380 doesn't automatically mean that you're like in first class or whatever. We were not in first class. We were in normal world traveler class, but I've got pictures of some of the fancy seats and that. So I'll get to that in a second. This is going to be sort of a different Sunday Sofa Time, not only because I'm actually back here in front of the sofa. The last few weeks I've been, on tour. So isn't it nice to be here in front of the sofa again at least? I guess that's a positive thing I'll try to focus on now that this big trip is over. But usually in Sofa Time videos, I just sit here and I tell you stories of my travels. And in this Sofa Time, what's my watch telling me? In this Sofa Time, I've got videos. So it's gonna be me talking and showing you things because I could not go on the A380 and not get video for you guys. So that's gonna be a little bit different. And before I get into all the details of telling you about how we got rebooked and what the whole experience was like, I have a question for you. Please, if this is the first of my videos you're watching and you landed here because you are somebody who likes to see flight videos or airline review videos, or you're into the A380 or whatever, please let me know in the comments below that that's how you got here, because I'm just interested in seeing, I'm always interested in hearing what it is that you guys are interested in, and it's interesting to me to just know how many new people sort of showed up here because of the subject of this video. And otherwise, I know that a lot of you people, you watch my videos every week, and I met some of you on the escape, and here I am in your living room again, everybody. So I'm thinking of you guys now, and it was really nice meeting you and saying hello, and I'm going to be talking about you guys more when I get to the videos of the escape. All right, so getting into it, we got rebooked on our flight from Hamburg to Paris because of the Air France strike. And that one was not really a big problem because we were still at home. We got the information a couple days before, and we got the opportunity to then rebook on a flight that wasn't going to be affected by the strike. So that was really not that big of a deal. However, the other way around, coming home, that was annoying and kind of frustrating, and I don't know what to think about it because if they're striking, then they have to strike, and that's what they have to do or that's what they feel like they have to do to achieve their goal. But it really affects a lot of people, and it's annoying. And I just wish that that there was a different way to get their message across, or to put pressure on their employee or the union or whoever it is that needs to make these decisions. Our last day in Miami, we had it planned out because our flight back was not supposed to leave until like 7:30 at night. So we had like almost a full day to wake up, and we were going to go have some brunch, and then we were going to go back on the beach and go to the pool, and then maybe have an early dinner before we go to the airport. And in the end, we still got to do most of that. However, it started out I don't want to say very stressful. Definitely first world problems. But what happened was we woke up in the morning, and we both got messages that our flight had been canceled due to the strike, or that Air France is striking again, and so our flight is canceled. Please wait for updates. And we were like, well, great. So what do we do now? Should we even bother checking out of the hotel? Should we book another night? And we didn't want to really go and do anything because that meant leaving, internet zone, because we don't have internet on our phones in the United States. And so we ended up sitting around in the room for several hours waiting for the updates. Then we got an update, and then we tried to see how it was going to affect us. And yeah, you know what? This isn't why you're here, is to hear about all that. So I'm going to skip ahead to getting to the airport. And I'm sorry if this part has bored you, but if it has bored you, thank you for sticking around. And obviously you're new here because you know I go off on these tangents, and it takes me a long time to get to the story sometimes. We had been rebooked on a later flight, but it meant we were going to miss our connecting flight, and that hadn't been changed. Or no, you know what? It had only been changed for me, but not for Marcus, and we couldn't get in touch with anybody to figure out why this was. And then we weren't sitting together, and it was just, it was all these things that you don't want to deal with on your last day of vacation. You know, we wanted to like get out and enjoy Miami for one more day, and we spent like 2.5, 3 hours just writing back and forth and trying to figure things out. And then we ended up going to the airport even earlier in order to try to get things sorted out. So when we got to the airport, we went to the Air France counter. They were a little bit overwhelmed because I think some of the people who work there were also on strike. And we waited in a long line, finally got to talk to somebody, told them the situation. They couldn't figure it out either. And it meant that, well, we had been rebooked on a later flight to Paris, but then our flight from Paris to Hamburg hadn't been changed, but we weren't going to make it. And it went back and forth, and so I was like, isn't there anything else you can do? Can't we like fly? Can't you rebook us onto another airline? You know, because this is all happening due to the strike, you know, it's not our problem. And I know I sound really annoyed right now, but I was very polite and very patient at the time, which made us get later and later and later. You know, we made the suggestion. I said, listen, you know, I'm willing to fly a little earlier or a little later, whatever, as long as we know we're going to make it home, because at the moment we know we're going to make it to Paris and then we're going to miss our flight. And if Air France is striking, the Paris airport is going to be, chaos. And is there any other way we could make this work? Could we maybe fly, like to New York, and then from New York to Hamburg, or fly to Amsterdam and then Amsterdam to Hamburg? And she looked and she was like, well, how about if we rebook you on British Airways? Then you would fly from here to London, and then from London to Hamburg. And I was like, perfect. That sounds fine to me. And then I said, if you could get us seats together, then of course that's even better. But, we'll take what we can get. So it took her an extremely long time. And I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying it took a long time then for her to go through all the paperwork. We had to sign in to the Air France account and cancel our check-in so that she could access the reservation. So we had to do that too. Gosh, I'm sorry. I'm getting to the actual the airplane, the A380. It's coming. So once we did that, she had to go through all the paperwork. She had to print something out. She had to talk to a supervisor. She came back. She was typing and typing and typing. And eventually, I'm looking at my watch thinking, okay, it's getting kind of late. And so eventually she printed something out and she said, so here, this is your new reservation for British Airways. The flight is at 7:40, I think is what she said. And at this time, it was like 6:30. So, we were getting really close to the time that the flight is leaving. And on these international flights, on these big planes, boarding sometimes starts 45 minutes before the flight begins. And we weren't even checked in yet. We still had our bags. We hadn't gone through security. We hadn't done any of that yet. She's like, you need to go to the British Airways counter as fast as you can, because they're probably going to be closing check-in soon. But they should know you're coming because I just changed your reservation. And she's like, take this and go. And she said, and I'm going to be here for another hour. So if for whatever reason they don't let you on the flight, then come back here and we'll see what else we can do. And I was like, thank you so much. And there we are with our big bags and our backpack, booking it through the terminal, because where British Airways check-in it was like in a completely different building. And so we're running with our suitcases. We get to then the Air France, or not the Air France, I keep saying that, to the British Airways counter, and there's a whole bunch of people waiting for a flight to someplace else, someplace where we weren't going. And then there was a bunch of counter spaces where there was no people left, and only two people still, check-in people still working. And so one of them had a couple standing with her, and so we went to the other one, and she said, I'm sorry, I'm closed for today, but please go to my colleague over here. She'll help you when she gets the chance. And I said, we just got rebooked on flight, I think it was 208 to London. Are we in the right place? And she said, you're going on 208 to London. Yeah, go over to my colleague. She'll help you, but it's really late. And I said, yeah, I know. We just got rebooked. But we are in the right place. She said, yeah, you are in the right place. We'll do what we can. So she sent us over to her colleague, and her colleague looked at us and she's like, you're on 208 to London, British Airways? And I said, yeah. And she said, okay. And then she looked at the other woman, and she was like, I don't remember exactly. This all happened like really quickly. Anyways, the woman that we talked to first, she was like, listen, I have to go home. I'm already on overtime. And the supervisor came and said, I have to go home. And then the woman that we were standing in front of, she said, all right, but it's going to take me a while before I finish this. And so the woman was like, you know what? Okay, I'll log back in and then I'll get them onto the flight really quickly. And so she was already late to go home, but she was nice enough to log back in. Like, she was logged out. She was just doing like some final paperwork stuff and she was ready to go. And she came over to us. She took us over to the counter. She logged back into her account. She got us, she like radioed to say there's 2 more people coming for 208, wait for the bags. So I mean, like, we were already that late. And not only did she get us then seats together, but she got us in an entire row that was empty. So I was on one aisle and Marcus was on the other aisle, and the 2 seats in the middle of us were empty. So it was like even bonus. And while she was going through all this and talking with people, at one point I heard her mention upper level. And I was like, upper level? Upper level, what? The only upper level I know is like on a 747 or something, where the upper level is like the fancy schmancy business class or first class or whatever. And I was like, did we get an upgrade or what's going on here? But I didn't want to ask. I just wanted to get the tickets and get through security and get on the plane, because I thought, if we're already checked in now and our luggage goes on the plane and then we miss the flight, there's no way we're gonna, how stressful would that be to then go back through everything, go back to the Air France counter, hopefully find this woman who helped us get that far and be like, oh, we missed the flight. So we just grabbed the passes and we booked through the airport to security. Security went pretty fast, which was nice. And then we made it to the gate, and they were already boarding, but there were still, there were still quite a few people waiting in front of the gate. So at that moment, I stopped panicking, because I thought, okay, we're not the last people on the flight. But I mean, isn't it crazy to think we hadn't even been checked in to this flight, and there were already people boarding the plane? That's kind of a crazy situation. So I realized then at that moment, when I saw the way it was set up, that this is an A380, and the A380 is the biggest passenger plane in the world. So that was exciting. So when you're boarding the A380, there is an upper level and a lower level. So there are 2 different, what do you call those? Jetties? I know there's a name for them. I can't think of what the name is, but these long hallways that bring you from the airport into the machine. And we were in group 4 or 5, I think. I think we were in group 4, so they called our group. We went out of the plane, and yeah, we got to walk through the other classes. So let me show you some of the other seat classes that we got to go through. And I wrote down the information here so I could be sure to get it right. So what you're seeing now is Club World class, which is like business class. And for those of you who don't know, business class is like a step under first class. First class is like the most expensive, fancy, schmanciest airline tickets you can get on a normal passenger plane. And under that is business class. And I didn't really actually know that either, but they explained it to me on that flight. So that was Club World class. So if you book Club World class on a British Airways A380, this is what you're getting. Then the next one is World Traveler Plus, which is sort of like Economy Plus. And if you look at these seats, I don't know how much more this would cost, but it looked nice, because not only are there only 3 seats in the middle instead of 4, and look at the extra space you have, but if you look over on the edges, like at the seats on the very side, you can see they even have extra storage over there. And you know what, though? That wasn't only in that class. In our class, which was called World Traveler class, which is basically economy class, the side seats also had that storage. So you have the upper storage, you have the storage under the seat in front of you, and if you're sitting in the two seats on the sides, you also have that little thing to put, smaller stuff in too. So very nice. All right, so when we got back to our row, we had that whole back section. Well, it was empty when we got there. And I was like, is this whole VIP area in the back free for us? And unfortunately, it wasn't. But we managed to get that whole entire row just for us. So that was sort of a big bonus, like a positive out of that stress that happened up until that point. So, I want to say it now, and I'm going to be saying it again. Fantastic service by British Airways, picking up the loose ends from Air France and the strike and all that drama. When I sat down, I was immediately greeted by a cabin steward who was just asking me if everything was all right and if I needed any help and if things are going well. And it seemed like really personal attention. I said, we had a little bit of drama getting here, but now we're here and I'm happy. And he's like, ooh, drama. Well, I'm going to come and I want to hear all the details later. And I was like, yeah, sure you will. But he did. Later he came up and he kneeled down next to my seat and he's like, so tell me the drama. And I just thought that was cool that he remembered that we had that short little conversation and he came back to follow up. And I mean, that is good customer service. Not only, asking if I needed anything, but also, really showing interest in what it was we talked about. I feel like, so many times you get asked, hey, how are you? And they're not really interested. And, when I said we had some drama, and he's like, oh, I want to hear about that. He actually came back, and he wanted to hear about it. So, great service. What else do I have written down here? Here's a look at some of the basic things on the flight. So, the safety card, which I found interesting, just because, the A380 is such a gigantic machine, and so the way the safety card is different because there's more exit rows and there's more slides and things like that. So I took a look at it and I thought that was kind of cool to look at. These are the headphones, which were also in-ear headphones that I didn't use. I used my own headphones. I always recommend using your own headphones because they're going to sound better than the headphones that you get on the flight, unless you're flying Emirates, because those headphones were awesome. The pillow and the blanket were kind of basic pillow and blanket. I have had nicer pillows and blankets in economy class on flights. I mean, I always compare everything to Emirates because our flight from what was it, Hamburg? No, I think it was Frankfurt to Dubai. That was the best, the most amazing economy experience I've ever had. So I always kind of compare everything to that. And these pillows were nothing special, but they weren't bad. So, I just thought I'd mention the pillow and the blanket. And this was the start then of the service. We got a little snack, these ranch, I think they were ranch flavored pretzels. And I chose a whiskey and ginger ale as my nightcap. Of course, I could have gotten, I think an unending supply of those, but I just had one. And I didn't need any more than that. I definitely had enough to drink the last week and a half before that on the cruise. Dinner was spinach and cheese ravioli, salad with vinaigrette, a little roll with cheese and crackers, and this chocolate pudding dessert shortbread thingy from my aunt Lily. And let me give you a tip here. This is something I always do on a flight. If I'm gonna be eating the roll, then I need to put butter on it, right? And the butter is usually frozen solid because it is. And so what I always do is I put the butter on top of the food, the hot food, before I open it, because that's gonna, soften it up and sort of melt it. So that's just a little travel tip for you from me. You're welcome. And when you do it now, think of me. The food was very good. I mean, I would say it was a little bit better than average. It wasn't spectacular, amazing, definitely not Emirates, but this was not I didn't order a vegetarian meal, which is good. I mean, because with all that rebooking and everything, there's no way that my special needs meal or whatever, my special meal would have, transferred over. So this was one of the normal options on the menu, and as a As somebody who eats vegetarian, I thought it was fantastic. We had a little snack or a little breakfast before we arrived. It was this cream cheese filled pretzel roll. So not nacho cheese filled like in Epcot, but you know what? I'll take it anyways. It still was really not bad. And some granola bars, which I actually still have. I wonder what I did with those. I'll find them sometime. And then, of course, OJ, orange juice, coffee, tea, etc., etc., etc. Overall, the flight was really good. There was an entertainment system in the back of the seat. The screen was pretty large. It was touchscreen or remote control, which seemed really modern. I could plug in my phone, listen to the music on my phone, charge my phone. And what movies did I watch? I watched Straight Outta Compton, which was really, really interesting. You know, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I heard some of that music when I was a kid, and I know who, you know, Eazy-E and Dre and Ice Cube and all those are, and it was just interesting to see where they came from and what they've made from that, you know. Anyways, you're not here to hear film reviews. What other film did I watch? Oh, Downsizing, which was a different film than I was expecting it to be. It was like, I thought it was going to be like a funny film, but it was more sort of dramatic. I don't know. What did you guys think of Downsizing if you saw it? I was kind of disappointed. But interesting, you know, things that make you say, And so there's just two more things I wanted to show you about the A380 then. The bathroom had this like little touch screen LED display to show you how hot or cold the water was. And I just thought that was interesting, like very high-tech, fancy 2018. And of course there is a stairway, and I saw it when we were when we were boarding the plane. And of course, you know, you've got the upper and lower decks, and I saw the stairway, but I thought, okay, that's probably only for, you know, for the crew, and I'm not gonna, you know, go walking down the stairway because I didn't know where it led. You know, I didn't know if it led to like a break room or maybe, you know, like the secret party area. I don't know. When we had landed and everybody's getting up to leave, that same flight attendant who asked me about the drama came to me and he said, "So, how was your flight? Did you have a good time?" And I was like, "Yes, it was fantastic. And, you know, it was our first time on an A380. And he's like, "Oh, why didn't you tell me that? I would have given you a tour." And I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. You know, I got some pictures and I saw the staircase and everything." And he's like, "Did you go downstairs?" And I said, "No, I didn't know I could." And he's like, "Oh, wait, you have to go downstairs. Just, you know, go down there once." And I was like, "Okay." So I went down the stairs and it just led to the same section on the lower deck. But, you know, it's just cool to... I don't know, you know, I'm fanboying about a staircase on an airplane, but still, you know, just something you don't see every day. And I thought it was cool, and it made, you know what, I think it makes you feel a little bit less cabin fever to know that not only can you, you know, walk up and down the aisle if you need to move around, but you can also go up and down stairs. So, you know, just a cool thing. And the A380 just... it's just a cool, gigantic piece of technology. And the whole experience on British Airways, like I said, I would definitely do it again. And now that I know what it's like to fly on British Airways, on these big A380s, I will definitely try to do it again. And I'm going to check out that World Traveler Plus because that just really looked like something worth spending, you know, maybe an extra 100 euros on. As a nice upgrade to yourself. So thanks again to British Airways and to the whole crew and everybody who made that happen. It was a fantastic experience, and I hope that you enjoyed watching it now too. And now I get to the part of my Sunday Sofatime videos where I am finally going to answer your questions again. I go through last week's video and I look at some of the comments and I answer them here. So what was last week's Sunday Sofatime? It was... the cruise and Disney wrap-up that I did from the National Hotel. All right, let's see what you guys wrote here. True Janie Sue wrote, "Keep doing what you're doing. I like all the travel information you have shown. After all, your channel is known as Unofficial Travel Guides, not Unofficial Cruise Guide." Thank you, True Janie Sue. So be it about Disney, Universal, a cruise line, or even a backwoods cemetery theme park. A backwoods cemetery theme park, what? Keep doing you. It's all good. Thank you, True Janie Sue. She's referencing the fact that I'm worried that when I start posting now videos of Disneyland Paris that my viewership is going to drop, just because I know so many of you are here because of the cruise videos. And I'm just saying, I do stuff on this channel that I love to do, and I hope that you love to watch it too. Among them is cruising, but I'm not going to stop doing the other things either. And she was like, you know, she said what she said there because of that. So thank you, True Janie Sue. Somebody you don't need to know writes, I love Morgan, not Dino. I don't want to see Dino. I could listen to Morgan's voice for years, but I could listen to Dino for less than 1 minute. Dino is this guy I met on the cruise who I asked to do a couple videos for me. And he's only doing like 2 or 3 videos, and then he'll be gone. And just allow me some Dino, all right? You'll learn to love him. One more here. Rebecca Case says, for what it's worth, I've been using your Disney videos to try and figure out my Walt Disney World trip next year. First time I'm going to try a full week instead of a day here or a day there, per your advice. Very good idea. Still trying to decide if I should do 7 days Disney or a 4/2 Disney Universal split. At any rate, I love both your cruise and Disney videos. Both have been helpful and fun to watch. You inspired me to travel. Well, thank you, Rebecca. That makes me feel good too. And as I was saying, I met so many of you on the Escape who said a lot of the same things, you know, thank me for doing what I do and say that, you know, I've helped you travel, and that just makes me feel good. That's why I do it, and I'm so happy that I have that positive influence and help people like that. And as I think I wrote to you also on YouTube, Rebecca, a 4/2 Disney Universal split will definitely help you see more of what Orlando has to offer, but be prepared to be exhausted when it's over. So that's my little advice about that. So I'm Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides. This was Sunday Sofa Time. Next week's video is going to be a tour of our hotel, the Kyriet at Disneyland in Paris. So you can look forward to that. And next week's Sunday Sofa Time and more Disneyland videos and the cruise videos coming up and all that. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Please subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't done that yet. And if you want to see a little more extra things and give me a little tip in my tip jar, you can do that at patreon.com/veryunofficial. These are some very special people who help me out over there. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.